Okay, I think that we should be moving forward, and if we can put now the next slide of so to introduce the panel. But before these the panel, I think we should put the slide on the moderators. It's the previous one. No. Here, no, well, that's conclusions. Okay, well, let me then introduce Patrizia Pitronaci. She is my counterpart and my co-host here now for moderating this this session. We are passing on now to the panel session, and we're going to have dividing our roles. Patrizia, from Senior Advisor of industriAll-Europe, is going to introduce 3 panelists, and I'm going to introduce the next 3 ones. Patrizia, can you take the floor and make your introductions?
Buonasera a tutti. Buonasera a tutti, mi sentite? Ok? Ok, allora io intanto vi ringrazio della vostra partecipazione, vedo che siamo arrivati a circa 125 partecipanti e questo ci fa molto piacere nonostante la condizione. Certo, il programma di fare questa conferenza il 16 giugno a Vienna sarebbe stato ovviamente molto meglio per tutti, ma in 2 ore dobbiamo concentrare il massimo. Allora io andrei subito a presentare la dottoressa Carmen Arias, che è la segretaria generale della Confederazione Europea delle Calzature. Lei come confederazione è sempre molto attenta alle relazioni con la controparte ed anche l'industriAll a proficui incontri di dialogo sociale nel proprio settore, ovviamente. Poi presento e introduco Athanasopoulou, che è la responsabile nella Commissione europea di alcune tematiche, ma anche in quella del settore tessile e delle industrie creative. E quindi lavorando nelle istituzioni da molto tempo siamo lieti di darle la parola e di ascoltarla. Terzo ed ultimo, ma non per importanza, è solo perché avevo il piacere di presentare le 2 donne presenti, è Gerald Kreuzer, che è un nostro dirigente sindacale austriaco dell'organizzazione ProGe, ed è colui che segue da molto tempo le politiche delle contrattazioni collettive, specie quelle nel settore tessile. Quindi benvenuti a voi 3 e Gustavo ti do la parola perché tu possa presentare anche gli altri 3. Grazie.
Yes, thank you very much, Patrizia. Well, let me then introduce Mike Costello. Mike Costello, we know each other for quite a while now. You are an expert in chemistry. You have been working in the chemical sector for quite a while now, and you joined Stahl in 1988. And after having worked in a series of chemical companies in various positions, notably in the management position in the inks and coating sectors, you were then became afterwards Director for Sustainability in 2015, and you are now Director for ESG, which stands for Environment, Social and Governance at Stahl. Stahl is the most important chemical supplier for the global leather industry, and your focus is more on the strategy and promoting transparency in the and recycling in the industry, in the supply chain. You are also an expert and a member of the Leather Working Group. We will then have also in the panel Kerry Senior. Kerry Senior, Dr. Kerry Senior is Director of the UK Leather Federation. He is relatively young in this in our sector. He was in the management sector, in the associative sector, because he has been at Eurofins BLC, British Leather Confederation, the technology center, for quite a while before joining the association. And he is director of the UK Leather Federation since 2013. Last year, he became also secretary of the International Council of Tanners, and he is going to be giving us as well a more wider view on the industry. And my colleague, Dirk Vantyghem, he is Director General of EURATEX. EURATEX is the European body representing the textile and clothing sector. Thanks to Dirk Vantyghem, we will have the opportunity to extend also the focus of this panel discussion to the textile and clothing sector. So this panel is going to look at the challenges and opportunities of the Green Deal in the wider fashion sector, which is composed of the textile, clothing, leather, and footwear sectors. And I don't understand why we change the slide. It's much nicer to see the people rather than this. So as a kind of introduction for the topics that we're going to be dealing with, I'd like to say a few words about the Green Deal. This new commission, the van der Leyen Commission, started last year with very important objectives to tackle. And very soon, van der Leyen did present this Green Deal that was then followed also with a number of action plans that are complementing this Green Deal. We have seen that there is a circular economy action plan, that there is a farm to fork strategy. There is also a textile strategy that is in the making, and of which Judith Kirton-Darling has introduced us a little bit in the beginning. So there are a number of initiatives that have been developed during this first full year of activities of the van der Leyen Commission, and I think it is very, very interesting how these to understand how these initiatives are going to be impacting on the fashion sector and on the sectors, textile, clothing, leather, and footwear industries in particular. So nobody better than Athanasopoulou to introduce us to the Green Deal and the impact that it is going to have on our sector. So for putting the scene, I would like to give now the floor to Athanasopoulou for explaining us a little bit more in detail what the Green Deal entails for our sectors. Anna, can I give you the floor?
Yes, hi Gustavo, and good afternoon everyone. Thank you for having me in this very interesting webinar, and it was very indeed enriching and interesting to hear the different findings of your report. It's timely and it's relevant. You touched upon the European Green Deal. Indeed, it was the first big policy initiative presented by this commission, and if one wants to summarize what the Green Deal is actually, it's the EU growth strategy that would hopefully lead the transition in the EU towards a carbon neutral economy and society by 2050. This is the objective, this is the target. And this objective and target is relevant for businesses, it's relevant for industry sectors, as it is relevant for citizens and for policymakers. And there is a convergence at European scale around this target. So this is the joint target that we have to make sure that we have in place by 2050. It's also, the European Green Deal is also the leading thread across the different initiatives that the Commission has been presenting in this mandate, and of course will continue to present until the end of mandate. The Circular Economy Action Plan was already mentioned, but of course the industry strategy is another area very much contributing to the goals of the European Green Deal. And actually, it's in this context of the industry strategy and of the Circular Economy Action Plan that last March, the Commission announced the proposal of a comprehensive, as it's called, EU strategy for textiles in 2021. I understand that there's been a number of questions coming from the industry as to where we are on this strategy and why this strategy is not mentioned in the Commission work program in 2021. But I'm here to reassure you that the strategy is not a ghost. It's a proposal on which we are working on. We will launch the official procedures according to better regulations as of early next year, we hope. And we count very much on the cooperation of everybody to give flesh to the strategy, and most importantly, to co-create it so that we lead what is called the industrial ecosystem of textiles into along a greener path and a more innovative path, and a path that is sustainable and competitive over the longer term. So you may be saying, why under the Green Deal then a strategy on textiles? Well, I think there again, it's been said today, textiles has been identified as a resource-intensive sector. And in that sense, it requires additional attention, if you like, from the point of view of Green Deal. And this is the challenge, if you like. This is the challenge that we both have as policymakers and certainly industry and companies on the ground. We have heard some very good examples and progress made by the leather sector and tanneries. We also hear very good practices and examples coming from other segments of the textile ecosystem, and this is an encouraging sign. For us, because it's important to talk about the challenges, but it's also good to talk about opportunities. Why? Because we're all in the middle of this pandemic and under the cloud of this pandemic. And I think it's good to not only look at the challenges and where the issues are, but also where the opportunities for action are and what we can do about it. So for us, this textile strategy offers the opportunity to actually build on the competitive strengths of the EU textiles ecosystem, support industrial competitiveness and innovation, and at the same time accompany the green and the digital transition that we would like to see within textiles in order to make sure that the EU remains indeed a global leader in textiles, in leather, and in other sectors as well. So at the same time, the strategy will give us the opportunity to look at the challenges linked with emerging consumer patterns for more sustainable products, for circular textile products, for more sustainable fashion. Also challenges linked with new EU rules that will be put in place as of 2025 on a separate collection of textile waste in member states. These rules are foreseen in the revised Waste Framework Directive. And also challenges linked with the impacts and lessons learned of this of the COVID pandemic. We are aware that textile companies and the textile ecosystem is hugely disrupted. We are aware about the losses. We're looking at estimated losses in turnover of 30%. We are aware that textile companies, especially SMEs, are facing serious constraints, and we are also aware that many jobs are at risk in different parts of the EU because of COVID. And this is why it's even more important that the vision of the Green Deal, the proposals that we can put in the context of the strategy on textiles would pull together all this information, all these challenges into a narrative that is meaningful for businesses as it's meaningful for the environment and for citizens. So we believe that the Green Deal and the textile strategy give both to private and public actors the opportunity to work together. To reboot the textile ecosystem, its global competitiveness, and also support the industry to become more sustainable and circular, take advantage of the digital transition, but also promote global leadership in competitive value chains where the EU has identified competitive edges. So the Green Deal and the strategy is very much the vision, you may say. How do we get there? What about the means? What about the tools? There's different tools, but here I would like to bring to your attention the financial tools, because perhaps this is most needed at this point in time. And this is where we have some novelties at this point in time. What I'm referring to? I'm referring to this famous proposal for the recovery plan for Europe, the next Generation Europe recovery plan of 750 billion euros in loans and grants to reach to the member states to help them relaunch the economy and different economic sectors, including most affected sectors and most affected regions. This new budget, this fresh money, will sit on top of the EU budget for the next 7 years, from 2021 to 2027, and in total will bring a financial envelope of 1.85 trillion euros. So this money is there to help member states, as I mentioned, relaunch the economy and the different economic sectors, protect businesses and jobs, but also put in place investments and reforms to accompany the green and digital transition. It's interesting to note that 35% of investments should be devoted to green objectives and 20% to digital. So there we have some standards and some targets, additional targets that member states need to achieve through the investments that they will be rolling out. The keys are in the hands of the member states right now. They are working, they're drafting their national recovery and resilience plans, which are to be adopted by the Council by the 30th of April. And in all of this, there are opportunities for new value propositions to boost the EU market for sustainable and circular textiles, for driving new business models and investments. For instance, to support public and private partnerships in order to boost the capacity for textile waste management and recycling, or investments to develop innovation for high quality secondary material for textiles, or investment to step up the industrial capacity to scale up actually the production of circular textile products. Also support to SMEs, much needed in the sector, to either renovate infrastructure to improve energy performance or develop circular business models, or access upskilling and reskilling provided in different areas such as digital skills or green skills or sector-specific skills that we know it's another big area of attention in the case of the textile ecosystem. So our hope is actually that industry and market actors will play the part and also seize these opportunities. Because from where we stand, I think we have a common goal to ensure that the EU industry, the EU industrial textile ecosystem and all its segments remain competitive and become more sustainable and more innovative. And for us, as much as it may sound as a challenge, this is a clear opportunity for growth in the future. So I will leave it at that, Gustavo. I'm of course happy to reply to any questions you may have and contribute together with the other panelists to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna, for this introduction. I think here the key word is sustainability, and it is of course you have been focusing on the textile ecosystem, and I would like to give immediately the floor to Dirk Vantyghem for responding to you and for giving us as well his perspective of how this is going to impact on the fashion sector. Also, Carmen is, I'd like to hear what she has to comment on these introductory words. Dirk, can you give us your view on the challenges and opportunities?
Of course. I mean, thank you, Gustavo, for the invitation to join your event. Congratulations on the publication of your report. happy to listen to Anna and everything you said about developing a new textile ecosystem strategy. Let's say there's a lot that can be said, and I want to keep it short. I would like to emphasize that for me, the challenge of the Green Deal and developing this kind of competitive model is that it's not a discussion on ideology. It's not a discussion on whether we want this or not. It's a discussion on how you actually implement those principles to which I'm sure everybody agrees to. So I would like to focus very much on the governance, on how we can develop a business model that will make the Green Deal work for the TCLF, let's say, ecosystem. And again, there's a lot that one can say, but I just want to maybe highlight 3 or 4 points which to some extent coincide what Anna said before. The first point to insist is that achieving sustainability, circularity within our industry is complicated. And complicated means it requires to address a range of very different elements from a legislative perspective, from a logistic perspective, from an organizational perspective, from a behavior perspective. So we developed, as you know, Gustavo, last year already, a circular economy strategy of EURATEX. In that strategy, just to achieve circularity, we identified 12 action points. Each of those 12 needs to be implemented if we want to achieve circularity. So it's not a one-trick pony that will settle the thing. So it's complicated. It requires addressing different areas of intervention, different stakeholders, and therefore it requires coordination and coherence. And it's something in my relatively kind of young or fresh involvement in the industry, I want to insist on very much that we must think in a coherent way how to ensure that the different measures that we take, that different players take, go in the same direction. Secondly, I would like to emphasize, speaking from the private sector, yes, we want sustainability, we want this Green Deal, absolutely, but we need to develop a market where there is demand and supply for sustainable products. On the demand side, in our industry, we obviously have the consumers, and therefore we need to think carefully how to convince and how to help consumers to be more interested in sustainable products, for example. But we also have the government, the authorities, who are an important consumer, if you think of public procurement. So the whole debate about green public procurement. So we must make sure that there is a demand sufficiently important, sufficiently large for our industry to respond to. On the supply side, on our side, on the side of the industry, again, talking to entrepreneurs, talking to our board members, the issue is not about whether we agree on sustainability or not. No, the issue is how much will it cost and how can I turn this into a kind of long-term competitive model. So we need to look at the cost of sustainability. And we need to look at the long-term competitiveness. Is there need for support? As Anna mentioned, and as I think you mentioned as well, Gustavo, the industry is very much dominated by small business with limited access to finance. So what are the means? Are there means out there to help small business to become more sustainable by certain financial support, for example? So we need to make sure that there is a demand and supply that creates growth opportunity for the industry. If it is perceived as a kind of a top-down, I would say almost ideological perspective, I'm not very optimistic. So we need to see what are the opportunities in a market context. Thirdly, talking about market context, of course, we need to put this whole effort, the Green Deal, circular economy, we need to put that whole effort in a global context. We all know to what extent our industry is part of a globalized sector. It's clear. We welcome that because it's a source of, again, competitiveness. Our exports are doing pretty well in the global market. But of course, there is the issue of level playing field and fair competition. And I think everybody knows what we're talking about. So there's no point in being the, I would say, the greenest student of the class if the rest of the class is not following. And again, I know also from the side of the Commission, from other stakeholders, we all agree on that. But so we must make sure that when we establish regulation, rules, procedures, limitations, for example, on chemical use, we must very carefully consider the global impact of those measures. That's critical. And maybe a final point among many other elements that one could address, and again, Anna referred to it as well. When moving forward, we need, or the industry, I would say, the sector needs support for sure. Resources, financial resources. The Next Generation EU program is coming, and yes, we need to think what can be done to help our SMEs to embrace sustainability, to have the necessary financial support in innovation to become sustainable on a competitive basis. So these are just some, let's say, initial or quick comments. Once again, from EURATEX perspective, we very much embrace the Green Deal, the move towards sustainability and circularity. But at the same time, we plead for, I would say, a reality check to make sure that what we decide in Brussels, between us in this kind of European bubble, is feasible, is realistic from the entrepreneur's perspective who is out there, who is indeed, again, Anna mentioned it, suffering very heavily from the corona crisis. So we must make sure that what we decide, or what is being developed and decided in Brussels is effective and makes a positive impact. And for that, yes, we need this textile strategy, or this TCLF strategy. And we need, I would, more than a strategy, I would call for an alliance where stakeholders can come together, where different perspectives can be brought together, and again, to make sure that whatever is being decided matches with reality and effectively gives a bright future for the industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dirk. That was a very interesting compliment to Anna. Before I give the floor to Carmen, thank you for being there already. Please, I would like to ask also the other panelists to switch on their cameras so that we can have a view about who is actually participating in this panel. Just to say that we are about 121 participants, and that you can hashtag, you can tweet about this panel with hashtag leather SR20. So, Carmen, you have the floor. What is your perspective of the issue? Don't be too long, because we have.
I see already. I see.
Thank you.
No, good afternoon. No, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here today. I have to congratulate you for the report. It is a brilliant report. I can see well already you are covering everything, and I have also to congratulate you for the efforts of improving in all aspects, as I can see from the first videos and remarks. Also, I am, of course, I'm supporting you in everything that you are saying on the report. I understand that only 38% of the EU leather produced is used by the footwear, but in concerns, we are fully in the 100%. So now, about the EU Green Deal, I also share totally and confirm all the concerns and also, well, the lights that Dirk has mentioned. especially, okay, as you know, as Anna also was saying, and Dirk also, our companies are really struggling to survive at the moment, and because there is no consumption. And obviously, they have invested with whatever they had on digitalization, because this is what really they see as the first, I would say, results. If they come into line, they will maybe sell more, but they don't see the same approach when it comes to sustainability. And obviously, this is also why maybe there are some people saying that COVID will slow down the sustainable transformation, I would say. It is. I mean, in a way, it is logic. It is sustainability is something very complex. There are a lot of issues to address, as also what Dirk was saying, and including what if the consumer is going to pay more in this economic crisis that we are being now. So obviously, all the help provided by the European Commission and member states indirectly via interstates is very welcome. When it comes also to the level playing field, I support that. Okay, it is very good to have a level playing field within Europe, but it doesn't happen at international level. And we can see within the internal market how other products are circulating, causing a lot of damage, especially now on economic crisis. So there, again, we should not really tie it up so much our industries if the others are doing whatever they want. And I believe that we already have very high social environmental standards and safety standards within the EU. So, okay, when it comes to also on the side of the local production, it is an opportunity at the moment to produce inside Europe. As you know, all the consumers are favoring the local production, but again, we are maybe lacking some tools on traceability, as the report was mentioning, that could help to give informed choices to the consumers. And there I'm talking about, okay, the future electronic passport that I'm not sure when it will come, but it will come, I'm sure. We'll have certain information on the social environmental standards, and preferably also on the origin of products, because at the end of the day, the origin where the product has been made, it helps in this direction. And then finally, obviously, the very important for our people it would be when it comes to education and all the opportunities and investments that hopefully our member states will do on this. It will help to increase the competitiveness of the sector. That's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carmen. Thank you for being also so concise and brief and to the point. I'd like to give now the floor to our social partner, Gerald. You are representing here our counterpart, the social side of the industry, of the fashion sectors. Can you give us your perspective on the Green Deal?
Ja, danke schön. Zum einen auch von meiner Seite Gratulation für den Bericht. Ich glaube, das ist eine schlüssige Fortsetzung dessen, was wir 2012 schon gemeinsam gestartet haben, nämlich ein internes Monitoring unserer Aktivitäten sowohl im Umwelt-, aber auch im Sozialbereich. Und ich glaube, das ist ein gutes Tool und das Ergebnis ist sehr schön und das muss jetzt auch dann in Folge auch vertieft werden. Wenn wir über den Green Deal reden und über die nächsten Schritte und Herausforderungen für die Branche, dann ist das eine Frage, die auch für uns als Gewerkschaften möglicherweise etwas schwer ist, denn die Prognosen für die Zukunft zu geben, das sind auch wir nicht unbedingt immer in der Lage, korrekt zu treffen. Aber man kann über gewisse Szenarien nachdenken und sozusagen sich darauf vorbereiten. Und ich glaube, so wie wir jetzt hier auch sektorübergreifend, nämlich mit Textil, Schuhverband und die ledererzeugende Industrie, uns hier sozusagen kooperativ mit der Zukunft des Green Deals auseinandersetzen, ist schon ein erster Schritt in die richtige Richtung. Der Green Deal startet in einer ziemlich ungünstigen Situation, nämlich direkt aus einer Krise heraus. Wollen wir eine Transformation unserer gesamten Wirtschaft und Wertschöpfungskette schaffen, das sozusagen gleichzeitig mit einer Erholung der europäischen Wirtschaft gekoppelt und das möglichst schnell. Und ich glaube, das ist eine Riesenherausforderung, die uns hier bevorsteht. Der Vorteil ist, diese Herausforderung haben nicht nur wir als Europa, sondern global gedacht auch andere Märkte. Und unsere Chance kann sein, wenn wir hier koordiniert und auch abgestimmt und möglichst vielfältig diese Pläne angehen, dass wir auch zu einem Ergebnis kommen. Das europäische Modell ist kooperative und ist ein Voneinanderlernen und im Gegensatz zu anderen Regionen, wo es heißt, der Größere frisst den Schwächeren und der überlebt. Also ich denke, da haben wir schon auch kulturell einen größeren Vorteil als andere Regionen. Ich sehe die Chance darin, dass dieses erhöhte Interesse der Öffentlichkeit an Nachhaltigkeit, an sauberen Produkten, umweltfreundlichen Produkten auch gleichzeitig eine große Chance für uns ist, diese in Europa zu erzeugen. Wir sind hier Technologieführer, wir sind Innovationsführer und somit sozusagen eigentlich schon gut aufgestellt, auch diesem erhöhten Druck der Öffentlichkeit gerecht zu werden. Meine Vision ist, dass diese nachhaltigeren Produkte, besseren Produkte, innovativeren Produkte auch zu einer neuen Bewertung der Ware und der Produkte führt. Jetzt geht es darum, möglichst billig und möglichst kosteneffizient irgendwo auf dem Globus zu produzieren. Und ich glaube, dieses Rennen, dieses Fast Fashion, dieses billig ist eine Strategie, eine Geschäftsstrategie, die uns letztendlich den Atem rauben wird. Und ich denke, ein Umdenken, nämlich ein fairer Preis für faire Waren und letztendlich auch faire Löhne für faire Arbeitsplätze. Und daher sind wir als Gewerkschaft auch so daran interessiert. Dieser Green Deal kann zu einem großen Umdenken und zur großen Neuausrichtung auch für die Industrie führen. Und wir sind hier in dieser gemeinsamen Vorgehensweise schon auf einem guten Weg.
Thank you very much, Gerald, for these words. I think it's very important that to see also this step into the right direction of the Green Deal from the perspective of a very important company like Stahl. Mike Costello from Stahl, he is the director for ESG, Environment, Social and Governance, which is already giving the indication of what of the importance of these aspects that are in the boardrooms of all big companies. Mike, how do you see the developments going on in Europe with the Green Deal and all these, the chemical strategy that the Commission is putting forward, the textile strategy, and all these new communications?
Yeah, I think indeed there is a chemical strategy linked to the Green Deal, and we're all looking into that and following it. And probably that will take the form of, REACH and ECHA, passing through more regulations on certain substances through the supply chain. And we're fine with that. We welcome that as long as it's properly communicated. And I think in our case, there are so many voluntary, call them, chemical compliance initiatives on the market right now, textiles and leather, like ZDHC, like brand-driven initiatives, and Blue Sign and EURATEX and all of these things, that I hope that they are also well aligned with what's going on with this EU chemical strategy linked to the Green Deal. I think that's important, that the initiatives that we're all so involved in now and quite enthusiastic about are linked to that. So I think there's so many positive things in your report, about environmental stewardship, but including chemical compliance, that I think the turning point for CSR for these companies like us has indeed been made already, and so there's many positive things going on. But yeah, the Green Deal is very much part of that strategy for chemical companies. We're looking at it very closely at the moment. Yeah.
Thank you, Mike, for these introductory words. Now, let me pass on the floor to Kerry, Dr. Kerry Senior, ICT, and well, it's the leather representative in this panel. Kerry, can you give us your perspective on the developments that are taking place in the continent?
Good afternoon. I mean, obviously, as has been said, the Green Deal is undoubtedly a step in the right direction. For me, the important thing here is that we see actual green progress rather than a bit of a green wash. There are some concerning aspects within other parts of the deal which would impact upon leather manufacture. And I have to say that leather is ideally placed to meet the aspects, the ambitions of the Green Deal as a circular, renewable product made from waste material. We've been doing the Green Deal for thousands of years. The concern is things like the methane strategy and farm to fork strategy, where there seems to be already a lean against red meat. And obviously, we need to bear in mind the impacts of any part of the process. But whatever decisions are made have to be scientific. They cannot be politically driven to ensure that A, we have proper results, and B, that we don't prejudice the deal against the European industry in favor of, as we've already said, businesses outside of Europe. The other thing is transparency. This industry has been, our leather industry has been suffering as a result of green claims, either by products that are alternative to ours or by mechanisms for assessing the environmental impact of our product, which are incomplete, inaccurate, misleading. If we are going to communicate to the consumer what is a sustainable choice of material, we need to have robust, reliable, transparent methods for communicating and assessing that information. And I think that it's very important that when we start talking about materials, that we are looking at them properly and not just using imperfect systems which bias themselves against, for instance, natural materials like leather.
Thanks a lot. So we have heard about the market demand, the offer, the transparency, the global context, the level playing field that this will require. Now, I think that the most important thing is that we find some reason in going forward, and that we have the opportunity to have exchanges with our regulators in order to find our marks and to advance all together. So since we're coming close to the end of this panel session, I would like to ask all the panelists, one after the other, to give me in one word or in 2 words, what would be your ask for the regulators in order to allow the industry or the textile clothing, leather, footwear sector to advance towards more sustainability, to reach the objectives of the Green Deal? In 1 or 2 words, what would be your ask? Let's start with you, Kerry. Now we go backwards to the
transparency.
Mike.
Yes, I was going to say the same thing, but CSR is required now for survival. It's not an option. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Gerald, what is your idea about?
Für mich ist essentiell breite Beteiligung. Es muss vom kleinsten Arbeitsplatz in der Lederindustrie bis zu den Management- und Führungsebenen sozusagen in eine Richtung gedacht und agiert werden. Und da darf niemand zurückbleiben.
Excellent. That is really a very important part. Carmen. Oh, you have to unmute yourself.
Traceability, reinforce traceability, and provide the right tools with the information for the consumers and the companies, obviously.
Thank you very much, Carmen. Dirk.
From my perspective, given the complexity, the variety, I would look for a coherent, structured dialogue involving all the relevant stakeholders, public and private sector, to develop that new textile strategy.
Thank you very much. Back to Anna. So you have heard the different sectors that are composing the textile, clothing, leather, and fashion and footwear sector, the fashion sectors altogether. Are these ideas that are going to, that have been put forward all integrated into this textile strategy, this for the textile ecosystem that is going to be coming up next?
Yes, these ideas are not new, although the context in which we are working is new, and they're very much at the heart of the agenda. We haven't written the strategy yet. I mentioned the word co-creation earlier, and that's exactly what I meant. And I can only echo Dirk and EURATEX, you know, for calling for this dialogue. For us, any strategy with a certain level of ambition needs to come with, let's say, agreed milestones with those who will have to implement the strategy. And that's mostly and primarily the industry and the companies on the ground. So we seriously want, in parallel to all the online public consultations that we have to run, which are in line with our procedures, and that we will do, and it's an open invitation already to alert you that this is coming, and please participate and make your voice heard during the time of this online public consultation. But in parallel, we want to sit down and look together with companies, with associations, with market actors, circular economy market actors, and also member states, where the bottlenecks are. What's stopping us from creating this market for sustainable and circular products? What is needed? Is it a question of technology and innovation? Is it a question of investment? Is it a question of industrial scale-up capacity? Is it a question of lack of demand? Etc., etc. And yes, indeed, we're very much aware of the fact that the value chains in the textile ecosystem are complex, interconnected, and globally exposed, if I can put it like that. And we're very much aware of this international dimension that one way or another, we need to factor into the perspective and into the mix. So again, my presence today is an open invitation. Of course, we will organize things and we will come out and etc. But it's an open invitation. We want the ideas. We need to work together because we need to agree on what we're after. If everybody agrees around the principle of sustainability, I believe everybody agrees around the principle of digitalization, which was even more accelerated with the COVID experience, as Carmen has been saying. Then we have to see how we get there. What is feasible, what is ambitious, and who needs to do what, because we need to work together, private actors and public actors. This is the message that I would have to say, and that's the intention. Of course, we need to set things in motion and see where this takes us. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Anna. That was a very good concluding word. I'd like to thank all the panelists for participating in this exercise. I think it was a very interesting, very illuminating for us all. I hope that it was also important and useful for you. I'd like to give now the floor to Patrizia Pitronaci, my counterpart, for making the concluding remarks before closing this exercise. We have still a few minutes left, so it's not going to shut down at 5 o'clock sharp as it was indicated. So, Patrizia, you have the floor.
Grazie Gustavo, ma devo dire la verità, io sono molto felice di fare le conclusioni, perché per la prima volta che conosco tutte le persone che erano appunto i pannellisti, ma altri che ho visto che sono presenti, mi è sembrato intanto, come sono felice che come italiana faccio questa chiusura, perché dall'apertura che c'è stata di Maurizia Contu e dalla percentuale che l'Italia è una delle maggiori produttrici in questo settore, mi inorgoglisce questa cosa. Ma a parte questo, ho sentito attentamente tutti gli interventi da Brigitte, Javier, Michael e Kerry, di tutti i presenti. Devo dire che ognuno ha portato uno spunto interessante, che alla fine però, se faccio il sunto di tutto quello che è stato detto, mi sembra che ci sia una necessità di avere per tutti un confronto sempre continuo, e questo un dialogo sociale che sia perennemente mantenuto da parte nostra. Prima sentivo appunto la dottoressa Athanasopoulou, che con la sua esperienza ci ricordava che queste strategie, sia le strategie che le sfide che ci aspettano, possono essere fatte solo e esclusivamente se si hanno delle relazioni e delle buone pratiche con le controparti. Lo stesso Dirk ha detto una frase che ha poi anche enfatizzato nella parte finale, quando Gustavo gli ha sottolineato la parola chiave, diciamo, di tutto questo incontro, che è quello comunque di mantenere e di analizzare una portanza comune, un dialogo quindi sociale comune, che sia anche coerente, sempre per le parole che ho sentito dire. Mi sembra comunque che, nonostante siano state 2 ore e veramente molto molto rapidi, perché sto cercando di dire quello che sento nelle parole più brevi, però il concetto voglio enfatizzarlo, intanto che come esponente della Federazione Europea dei Sindacati, ovviamente in tutto questo contesto di strategie, di Green Deal, di economia circolare, rimarco il fatto ovviamente che noi teniamo ai lavoratori, alle sempre maggiori garanzie, a mantenere i loro posti di lavoro. Allora, diciamo che questo progetto, che è seguito a un altro che è stato fatto forse troppo tempo fa, darebbe la possibilità, secondo me, di, proprio perché stiamo vivendo questa situazione veramente drammatica, tragica, di sviluppare un altro progetto che possa condividere quello che ci aspetterà nel 2021, perché ovviamente siamo tutti consapevoli, siamo tutti nel settore e sappiamo che sarà veramente un anno difficile. Io voglio concludere dicendo che questo mi sembra un progetto che potrebbe essere esportato anche negli altri settori per la buona riuscita che ha avuto. Perdonatemi, ma io vengo da Roma, per cui sono circondata da dal Santo Papa, che ha detto delle parole proprio ultimamente riguardo al fatto che non siamo soli. Adesso mi è sembrato che in questa platea uscisse fuori sempre: non siamo soli, dobbiamo essere uguali. Non so perché ho pensato a Francesco, e poi siamo sotto diciamo al periodo natalizio, per cui intanto vi volevo salutare. Spero vivamente di vedervi tutti fisicamente al più presto a Bruxelles, e ringraziarvi della partecipazione che avete avuto. Grazie mille.
Thank you very much, Patrizia, for these concluding remarks. Let me just close this session by saying that it was really a privilege to have been here with you today, with all of you, the panelists, the presentators, the people that have asked questions, with the technical team that has been supporting us in this exercise. I think it was a very good exercise, and in 2 hours we have covered quite a lot of way in this in social and environmental matters that pertain to the leather industry. And I hope that the lessons that we can draw from this today's conference will occupy us in the weeks and months to come. I'd like to end with one word as well. it's about ethics. Sustainability is not only a question of environment or economy or social aspect. It's about ethics, and here the fact that we are working together, workers' representative organizations and the business representative organizations, in order to obtain the results in very important matters, is a very important ethical aspect that we are driving. And I'd like to thank you, Patrizia, to thank our social partners for the work that we are able to do together, and would like to thank all the participants for their participation. Thank you, and have a nice evening. Bye-bye.